Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of guitar building chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi. Hello everyone, welcome.
Hello.
We've got two people that haven't been with us before. That's Eric and Trent, who I'll introduce you to properly later. And we've got two people that were meant to be on here, but my mistake, somehow I can't have as many guests live as I wanted. So I'm going to try and sort that out. I might go quiet for a bit in a minute and try and sort that out. But we're just saying off air that on the 6th of July will be exactly a year since we did our first podcast. So it's quite mad that we've been doing it for a year. And this is the 49th episode, which means we've only had 3 weeks off, one of which was Christmas, I think. Great.
Congratulations.
Yeah, oh, thank you. And thanks for being here.
Daniel, you've been there for all of them, haven't you? The rest of us have sort of been in and out a few times.
Yeah, well, we had that issue with time zones where when we started, we found a time that Scott, Arran and myself could do, which is this time. But then when the time zones changed and in the different countries we went in different directions, it made it a bit hard to find a time that worked. So yes, I've been here on all of them, and because it's only me that can access the software to launch it, unfortunately.
I think you offered it to us once to do it, but we declined pretty quick to have to do all the tech work behind the scenes.
I'm going to see if I can upgrade my package, my plan, and that might let the others join in right now. But that might cut this out. And if it cuts it out, then we'll just start again, as we've done that once before. But I'll do that in a moment. What will be great, though, is just if anyone's in the chat, just let us know where you're from, because it's 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. So Eric was saying, obviously, how important that is in America. But over here, we've got our general election today. So by tomorrow morning, we'll know which Prime Minister we've got and which party is leading the country and how much control they have. It's been a bit of a crazy few weeks here for politics. But we're not talking about that.
No, we don't want to talk about politics.
No, not at all. So let's just start with a little bit of getting to know Eric and Trent, because obviously it's first time here, but you've been in the chat a bit before. Eric, before we talk about Mangled Guitars, I'm aware that you used to be in a band and gigging quite a lot.
Correct.
Right. Can you tell us about that? Because I find that really interesting.
Sure. We're a touring band, and for the longest time, we were on the East Coast of America. And the record label that we were dealing with wanted us to saturate a different market. So the drummer at the time was from Ohio. So we moved to Ohio and started saturating this area. 2001, we toured with Godsmack and Disturbed up and down the East Coast.
Oh, amazing.
Then we moved out here to Ohio and hooked up with a band called Mushroomhead. They're sort of like Slipknot with the masks and all that stuff. And did some touring with them. We toured, well, not toured with, but we played with Black Label Society. Ozfest 2003, a couple dates. Chicago, Ohio, Tennessee. And our last gig that we played was a UFC pay-per-view. We did music for a fighter. And that was the last show that we played before everything went to pot.
Mm. Did it go to pot in the way bands go to pot then? Like you're no longer speaking to each other.
Oh no, the bass player and I are still very good friends, and you know, he's still a very important part of my life, and him and his wife and me and my wife see each other and go out together all the time. But the drummer and I and the bass player have nothing to do with each other anymore. I wish him the best of luck, you know, keeping things positive. I have no ill will towards the man, but just not my cup of tea anymore. And I don't even want to play live anymore.
Oh, that's a shame. I definitely want to talk about how playing live affects our building a bit later. Trent, have you got any background in performing or playing?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Not to the extent that he was, just regular local bar stuff and stuff like that. Nothing as interesting as Ozfest, like he's talking. But
yeah, no, it's Ray's here as well. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I've just seen the note, is can I ask you all, if you're not talking, just to mute, because we're getting real background interference. Is that easy enough for everyone to do? Or I can do it to you, or mute you, or whatever. But Trent, maybe you can stay on.
All right.
Sorry. I think that's better. I just saw in the live chat that people were saying it's hard to hear you. Yeah, it's all a bit odd having so many people on. If Brad's watching, your link should work now, Brad, to come up and join us, because he was going to join us as well. Fantastic. Apparently that sounds better.
How did you get it to work, Daniel?
I just paid for I just upgraded.
Nice.
So doubled the price.
When in doubt, get it.
Yeah, it's always about money to get things working. But that's fine. So just a weird question, but why Mr. Babinga?
I guess when I was younger, you know, and into woodworking, when I first saw Babinga, I was just there was something about it. I just loved it, and I was always looking at it and didn't want to spend the money. And then over time, I started using it more and more until eventually I did my kitchen cabinets out of Babinga. So I was like, well, that's kind of deserves a name there. So I went with that, and it's my email address. It's everything. So
amazing.
Woodwork's
part of your life.
A few years ago, I got a piece of Babinga that was wide enough for tops, and it was long enough for like at least 2 tops. And oh my God. Yeah, once I actually came in contact with Babinga, I kind of fell in love too.
Right, I got one great piece left. It was from a live edge Babinga table that I did, and I got a piece it's easily big enough for tops. I couldn't cut it on a bandsaw, but if I cut it in half, I could probably make 12 to 15 tops out of it.
Oh my God.
So it's been sitting for over 10 years, and it's just like it's got to be the right project before I cut that thing up. So
that's crazy.
It's funny, I was looking back through Mark's videos the other day, and I noticed you had one, Mark, with some wood that you got from, am I right? It was going to be used by the old Gibson factory, but wasn't?
Yeah, so it was old stock from the Kalamazoo factory. The Gibson, it was basically a Les Paul mahogany blank, and it's stamped with all the appropriate stamps. So it says Gibson, Les Paul, Kalamazoo. Forget the date. I don't remember. 1940, 1950, something. All the dates are on there. Yeah. And I think it was just a quick find, and I jumped at it. I bought it, and it's basically an investment. I'm not going to build a Les Paul with it. That'd be ridiculous. Daniel was saying, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, I'm going to sit on it for 20 years, and I'm going to sell it back to Gibson or Joe Bonamassa, and then I'm going to retire.
Sound like a plan.
Yeah.
Also, if anyone wants to talk at any point, obviously just unmute and join in. But has anyone else got a favourite type of wood, or bits they've kept keeping for a special occasion?
Walnut.
And why walnut? What does that?
I just love the way that walnut looks. I mean, black walnut is a beautiful wood, and the grain really shows up nice. I found a piece that I did a telly for a build for veterans, and the crazy thing, and I'm not trying to get into religion, but the grain on this top looked like the face of Christ right in the middle of it, and it was just beautiful.
I muted myself and forgot. I was going to say, you're talking about your builds. I've got a link to your Instagram page, so we'll put that up. I've only just used True Oil for the first time on a guitar to do an oil finish. Almost everything I've done before has been nitro finishes or poly, and it's always thick paints and things like that. And I enjoyed using it so much. And it reminded me of when I think it was 15 years ago now, I did a French polishing course, and I loved that too. And it's made me want to go back and make something where I'm doing the oiling and doing the finishing. So it's time for me, I think, to get involved with the picking the nice wood finishes. Because up until now, I've always talked about how much I like a lot of the builders on here who really make those amazing choices with the wood and the positioning of the wood when they're cutting out. And it doesn't bother me because I'm just priming it and painting it. But now I've got to that joy to experience.
Probably for me, for the native woods I've been using, Queensland maple is really nice to work with. It's pretty forgiving, and even though it's called a maple, I think it is more related to a mahogany. So that's probably the one. If I could, build guitars with a wood that was easy to work with and really forgiving, it would be that one. But probably for tops and other things, Camphor Laurel. It's another timber from Queensland. I think it actually is a weed, it's quite invasive, so it's pretty cheap to buy. So that's really good, and it smells amazing. So it's one of those timbers that you don't even have to cut it. You just, it gets delivered, and you open the box, and the whole room just smells amazing right at the start. So they're probably two of my favourites at the moment.
See, and talking about that, smell always comes to mind because. All right, Wenge. I don't know if we should even talk about Wenge is the worst thing on the planet, and it's the best thing on the planet. But when it comes to smell, Paduke smells fantastic. There's something that smells a little like cinnamon. Coca-Cola, maybe. But then canary wood is a lot of fun to work with and smell like Play-Doh.
Oh my God. Hey, Scott, Wenge splinters. Have you ever gotten one of those?
Jesus.
The worst.
Anybody who's been in the same room with Wenge has got one.
I had no idea it was so nasty.
Yeah, it's horrible. You just get your hand within 5 feet of Wenge and you will get a Yeah.
I think Purple Heart's the worst to work with.
I know
it is super dense.
I know a few years ago, for one of the great guitar build-offs, it felt like everyone was using Purple Heart. I just kept seeing it in different builds. And I don't know what it's like, obviously, to work with. I appreciate you saying it's terrible, but I think it looks amazing, especially in contrast with other woods. There's lots of people using it as thin laminates and things. It's really cool.
Well, I'm a big color guy. Somehow I discovered that in building color and contrast is such a huge thing to me. So when you can get some variation other than from yellow to brown that's natural, then of course that's exciting. But I don't remember it being all that hard to work with. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. But man, it's hard to pick a favorite.
And it's heavy as hell.
Yeah.
So Trent, is your background then in woodworking? When did guitars come into your life like that?
Guitar started. That was my first guitar. I was probably 17. It was just, I was playing guitar, and I always did a certain amount of woodworking. So this is, I mean, obviously way before YouTube. And I measured other guitars and just figured out how to go from there. I was always scared to make necks, you know, and that was the best thing about YouTube. I was seeing people do it and be like, this isn't that hard. You know, it's like, why wasn't I making necks before? Mm-hmm. So yeah, my first guitar would have been over 30 years ago. And I did a run back then where I did probably 7, 8 guitars. And then I didn't make any for a while because they were just for myself and I had enough. So then just recently I started again once I got my CNC machine. So I'm doing kind of half on that, half off of that, and figuring out which parts of the process are better in what direction.
But were you doing woodworking that gap in between, still working? Because it sounds like if you're making Babinga kitchen cabinets, etc., it must be something.
Right, I'm always, right. I mean, if you walk through my house, anything that you see that's wood, I made here. So,
well,
you know, I really like doing tables and stuff like that too. But guitars, there's just something about it that's just a different process, you know. So it's a lot of fun doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I got way too many. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but
I think.
So, what was the trigger? I mean, if you've been working with wood all this time, and you're a guitarist, yeah, you sort of like, to me, you sort of go, there's no reason to. I wouldn't see a reason that I would stop making guitars for that period of time. Yeah, you did. So, you know, what I guess, what made you stop making guitars for so long, and then what brought you back? What made you think that, okay, now I've got a CNC, I should do another guitar?
Actually, I got a nerve disease, so my right hand is missing like half of the muscles that should be there, so I can't really play guitar anymore.
Okay.
But the arm works, so I mean, but the way that I would hold certain tools, you know, is different. But you know, you're basically using your arm, and you know, people think woodworking is all about your hands. It's really not. You know, it's about your mind and figuring out how to do stuff. So, you know, it's a process I can still do. So it got me back into building the guitars, but I can play guitar for maybe 10 minutes at a time, and then my hand is gone. So, how many guitars do you have if you don't play guitar?
Do you mind if I just play some of your building in the background?
Sure.
So we can have a look at you in action when we do it. Yeah, it's funny the not playing. I definitely, at the moment, I'm really excited tonight because I am going to be staying up late for politics reasons, or that's the excuse. But I've actually going to be setting up my new pedal board and playing guitar all night. So I'm super excited by that. I'm using that as my excuse to get the guitar out, and I think that's hopefully going to drive a new passion of me playing. But I definitely would normally rather be building than playing.
I agree, yeah.
I was hoping to stop there somewhere where you were making and see that in the background. I think yours are definitely one of the guitars when I've been looking at them that the wood combinations are very inspiring. One of the things that made me really reappreciate guitars that are like a natural finish.
Right. I try to stay natural with everything. The current one that I'm working on, I was going to add some color, and then I put a video out to see what people think, and changed my mind and went back to natural.
Right.
Yeah, I've always been that way too. So many builds were actually inspired by a specific piece of wood. I have almost no experience with paint just because everything is natural. The one I'm working on now, I'm painting, and I'm a little nervous because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. However, it's 2x4, so I mean, who gives a shit?
They might as well paint it, right?
Right. Yeah, so I'm hoping, like an epoxy type of pre-finish will stabilize things a little bit. Because I've about decided, because I've done like 3 2x4 guitars before, and they worked just fine. I'm starting to think the The real drawback to it is how soft and easy it is to dent.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, natural's always been the way to go.
So on the challenge, the current Yerg's Cup, where it's buy from your local like hardware stores, and everyone's doing 2x4s, can't you get regular wood at like Menards? I mean, I can get maple, walnut, cherry. I can get any of that at the hardware store.
I've got Lowe's and Home Depot, and they have. I just decided to go with the cheapest shit I could possibly get my hands on because I'm kind of making fun of television. But and I have done 2x4s before and thought it'd be fun to do another one. But I get a certain amount of red oak. Not really big pieces, but I can get a hold of some red oak, and there's poplar, but the poplar is really low quality.
Yeah.
That's about all I can get. I've heard of people in other places that can actually find maple at Lowe's and Home Depot.
I got maple guitars.
Yeah, and I've heard of people even finding some that was figured, but.
It's interesting having guests on from different countries because you can see what a massive difference there is in different locations of what you can access, because most of what you get in a hardware store here is very limited. Although I've been looking at the idea of the things that are more interesting are things like banisters, bits of wood that are ready to be used for a visual purpose as opposed to building and construction with. But there's, again, not much of that.
Well, see, that's typically what you'll find here in Australia. If you go into our, hey, look at that guy. If you go into our hardware stores here, you're basically going to walk through. You're going to find pine, a little bit more pine. Then there'll be some treated pine. When you get to the decking section, you're going to find some treated pine, followed by Merbau, and then recycled plastic decking. That's kind of the limit that you find in Australian hardware stores.
So it's like the ass crack of Texas.
Yeah, pretty much.
They've got one of the hardwoods they've got. It's, I don't know, down here anyway. It's Victorian ash or Canadian oak. It's the same, basically the same thing. So it is the hardwood that's used for furniture, decorative things. And when I was mucking around with the cigar box sort of style guitars, I'd use that for some necks that didn't have truss rods, those kind of things. But so yeah, I know people sort of use that for guitar building, but the wood itself, it's not nice to use. It's got a really like a coarse grain, so chisels don't like it very well, and yeah, it's just not pleasant to work with. So I think I know Corey up in New South Wales, I think he uses a lot of the things, the Merbau and the decking boards, and like you're saying, Daniel, the things that aren't made just for construction to build anything, that he kind of finds things and then repurposes them for guitar building. Or they sell desktop, for make your own desk, which is only an inch thick or whatever. So there's sort of some laminated tops that he uses it sometimes in a variety of different woods. But yeah, it's pretty limited if you just wanted to find something a bit different or something nice to work with too.
Yeah. Well, Arran, I have noticed that in Bunnings sometimes you can pick up what's that wood? It's really rare. Oh, pine.
It's probably a good thing you can't buy all these woods from Bunnings, because my local Bunnings is I can walk to it. It's like a 10-minute walk. So I think if they did have a lot more wooden things available there, I'd be walking back with a big armful of wood. But yeah, it's probably a good thing that I can't just walk 10 minutes and spend a lot of money on fancy woods.
I used to live over the road from a Bunnings store.
See, I'm really lucky that I've got a shop in town that is just a hardwood, exotic hardwood dealer. So through the years, I've gotten lots of awesome stuff from there. But since COVID hit, it's I guess the shipping situation affected everybody, and I don't know why it still has, but it's there's never that much selection there. It's really hard to. I can still get big pieces of ash and alder and mahogany, but with the good exotics, it's difficult, and prices have gone up on everything too. So
Yeah,
once in a while,
also
I and see if they got something awesome, and if they got it, then I got to have the money for it because you got to grab it while it's there.
Near me, there's a timber called the Timber Zoo, so timber recycling place, which is only a 5-minute drive, and that's where I've got the silky oak that I've used for a few builds. Last year's build off guitar and the Yergs Cup one. So they've got a few good recycled and non-recycled timbers there, and that's for indoor and outdoor construction and furniture making and those kind of things. So that's probably. I mean, it's sort of reasonably priced as well. But yeah, once again, it's a lot of those timbers are things that just would be too heavy or wouldn't be stable enough for guitar building. But yeah, there's probably 2 or 3 that I can get from there, which isn't too bad.
I'm doing the Yergs Cup this year, sure. And the fun part for me is I'm not going to even step foot in the timber department. I'm going straight to the plumbing department. And I found some sheets of like plexiglass. This is going to be like so fun because forget the wood part. I think I'm going to do this at 0 wood.
Oh, so what are you doing the neck?
I just want to say, Mark, I have total respect for that. All these guys and their wood, just
I was going to say that in case people don't know what we're talking about, the Yergs Cup, there's information linked in the video description, but it's a sort of challenge. This is the 2nd year of doing the challenge in honor of Jürgen Zoller, who was like one of the main members of not main members, one of the early members of the Guitar Builders Collective, who just chatted to everyone and was like very, very active. And this year the challenge is to build a guitar using stuff you bought at the local hardware suppliers shop. So yeah, using plumbing stuff is cool. I'm definitely going to try and build as much as I can with things I'm buying, including the hardware, but I don't know how that's going to work yet.
I've been thinking about that too.
Hey, so Eric, every now and then Brad pops up, but he's having difficulty getting on. But anyway, Eric, how did you get into guitar building then? From playing to building?
When I stopped playing, I didn't know what I was going to do, as far as music and everything. And I got diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and I was down and out for like 2 years. I didn't know what was going on. And then I was in the bathroom one morning, and my mother-in-law said I was down there for like a couple hours, and I have no recollection of being there. So my wife took me to the hospital, and they told me that my heart was only working at like 15%.
Wow.
So after getting out of the hospital and being back home, I didn't want to be sedentary and just laying around and not doing anything and being a shell of the man that I used to be. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to go into the shop. I'm going to make something. I'm going to get some movement. And I started making wooden flags, crosses, and then it stemmed off into, hey, why not try to build a guitar? So I started making guitars, and one of the first people I talked to was some guys down in Texas that like toast. I'm not going to say who they are, but yeah, I think you get the idea. And I started watching them. I started watching Scott. I started watching a bunch of other people, and I was like, this is not really too difficult to do if you've got the tools. Then there's people that can make something out of nothing with limited tools. And yeah, it got me into building guitars that way. And you know, we were talking about building necks earlier, like 100 in a day at factories. Dude, I can make a neck in like a week. And I don't enjoy making necks. I really don't. I honestly can say that I've bought more than I've built. And for a price for selling, it's kind of the way to go, because for me, I can bust out a body with half a day to where I like it. But a neck is a little bit more time consuming. But as much as I dislike building necks, I understand that sometimes you need to. And yeah, I'll refret a lot that I buy, because you guys can probably attest to it too, that have gotten old necks or purchased new necks. The fret jobs are garbage. You know, I'll refret it with, you know, stainless steel or something to like. And yeah, man, that's how I got into building guitars.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm glad that you've got something to keep you active, and that I hope your health's improving with it. Am I right that you?
And I'm. What?
Sorry, with the delay, I didn't want to interrupt you, but am I right that a lot of the guitars that you've made, you sell for charities or raising money for veterans and things?
Correct. A lot of the guitars that I build, I've probably given away more guitars than sold guitars, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, a lot of guitars have been for veterans organizations. I work with one group called Save 22, because 22 veterans a day commit suicide, which is horrible. And they've raised a lot of money by auctioning off those guitars. The last one I did for them was a Les Paul, and Corey Taylor from Slipknot played it on stage up in Cleveland, and he autographed, and they auctioned it off, and it brought in a good amount of money for veterans.
That's brilliant.
So, I mean, anything I can do to help out the veterans, I'm there.
It's great to have the building not just for fun, but it going to something beneficial like that. Not that building for fun for yourself isn't beneficial, but of course.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I can just see Brad.
And
is
I
with us
also
now.
done builds. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Got
finally
Brad
made
in
it.
here now.
Yeah, they go.
So I interrupted again,
I've
Eric.
also built guitars for breast cancer research.
A
Sorry.
noble cause.
I saw one. I'm just going to find it on your Instagram. It reminded me of what Ray's been doing as well. See if I can find it. Oh, my eyes are going dizzy.
What, the 3D printed?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Ray's made a design for a guitar that you can print, 3D print, in any color you want. That is like the ribbon that is the cancer awareness thing symbol,
Right.
and he's giving that away for free via his websites, and hoping lots of people will print them off and do things with them that positive. And the one that you built, I know it was on your YouTube channel, I think. Let me see if I can find. There it is. I'll see if I can share this. Also has the similar sort of shape to it.
Oh, yeah. The pink breast cancer ribbon.
This was the one that was on your website, on your YouTube.
Okay. Yep.
But did you do that in
fun
pink?
build.
Then?
Remarkable finishing. Mark Bundy, he painted it pink for me. And my wife runs a medical facility that deals with women that have had breast cancer and mastectomies, and she does their prosthesis fittings. And since they have a facility there, we decided to build a breast cancer ribbon guitar, and they sold tickets and all the money to local breast facility. Women out have either been diagnosed or are dealing with, because bills add up. So it's helped.
Yeah, that's
So Eric, has that red ribbon been auctioned now? Has it?
I think we're losing Eric there. Yep, he's disappeared. I'm just trying to find your one. Here it is. I'll share your one now, Ray.
So I think what you find is that and Eric will be able to confirm this when he gets back to us, is that the one that Eric has built, I actually converted mine from a 3D model into a paper template that could be printed off on just A4 paper and then made. And I had done that because Eric had actually asked me to, because he wanted to build one. And looking at the one that he's made, I dare say that it's either is or based off of this one.
So Eric's 2 years old.
What's that?
The one I just showed you, Eric's one, that's a couple of years ago, that
Okay.
video.
Cool. Because in the on the Facebook group, there was a bit of a chat about it between Eric and I turned it into paper.
Yeah.
I guess so we can make more of them later on.
Yeah, because what's interesting is you both had this ribbon shape, but they're the other way round. Is it the other way round? No, it's the same way round. Well, this is my conversation here is thrilling. Thank you, everyone, for listening along. Is it this way? Is it that way? Who knows? At the moment, Eric's on his side on the screen as well. Not sure why that is. Has anyone else done things like that, made guitars for charities? I've never really. I've just had one in from ARY Customs, who does paintwork, who asked me just to do a final setup on it and try and auction it off. And we've had it on an eBay auction twice now, and just starting at £200, which is way less than the parts cost for it, and no one seems to want to buy it. I need to find someone that's willing to. And on eBay, they have a setup where you can just donate 100% to charity straight away, and you pick the charity. So that was for cancer research. So when it sells, the money automatically goes to the cancer research, minus the eBay fees, which are reduced because it's a charity auction. It's a shame.
I know for me, that's something I'd like to sort of do, down the track. But I mean, the great guitar build off from last year, so the ones that myself and Mark built went to charity. So I can't remember. I did get an email once all the dust had settled from the competition, how much went to the charity, and in my head it's $600 or $700. I think my guitar, I think, was about 2,500 Australian. It sold in the raffle tickets, and then I'm sure they gave me an email with a breakdown of where most of the things went to. There was a reasonable amount that went to charity from that one. So that was that was sort of a good feeling in the end to know that there was something worthwhile to go there.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's the only time I've ever done anything for charity was for the Great Guitar Build-Off. I have no clue how much the guitar had made raised. I know the guitar itself went to Germany to some guy there. But I am trying to think of a way to give away guitars, because I get a lot of guitars coming in, like for review, like just overseas guitars. And so I need a way to, like, I'm at peak guitar now. I'm at peak guitar. I have no place for them. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to, like, give them away locally. And I know there's a couple of institutions here locally, like there's a girls rock camp that might accept them, but I'm just trying to get rid of, like, some of the guitars I have.
I'm sure any of the schools would take them for their music departments, and the schools would probably know the programs for young kids out there in the community.
Happy to give them away.
Yeah.
Never done anything, but my brain's still stuck on the concept of prosthetic breasts.
Well, I don't have anything to add to that. I think the things I made for the Youth Cup last year, I'm going to a guitar show in a couple of weeks. I'm going to take them along and hopefully get some people that can play to try them out and see if they're actually things that people might want, and then hopefully get some charity money from them. I'm not saying everyone has to sell things for charity, but I feel like every now and then it's a thing that feels important to do for me anyway.
Personally, I wouldn't mind offloading a few so I can make room for some more.
Yeah. So one thing I've been thinking about recently is, because I'm so excited about looking forward to setting up my new pedal board tonight and getting some sounds out, I've been listening to music by a few bands that I think are going to inspire the sort of sounds I'm looking for. And it got me thinking about it. Get my inspiration sometimes from there, but a lot of my inspiration comes from non-guitar things. It comes from other either woodworkers or because of a lot of what I do sort of sculpting onto it, I follow people that are model makers, and things like that really sort of draw me in. And I wondered if any of you had sources of inspiration that you go to or that just sort of are around you all the time.
I've always liked the idea of that. And sometimes try to look around for other ideas, but not really. It's usually a piece of wood.
Yeah, it's sort of like for me, like it was suggested to me to try Pinterest. So, I sort of I joined up, had a Pinterest account and floated about for about 5 minutes and lost interest pretty quickly. And then I started getting daily notifications, and then they turned into 2-3 times a day from Pinterest telling me that I have a good eye. And eventually, like, I did sit down one day and have a really serious look at some of the stuff, and I definitely got a few ideas. So what ended up happening was after taking some inspiration, I sat down, started drawing a guitar, and when I was done with it, I looked at it, and then I looked at the pictures, and I'm like, I've pretty much just copied that.
Yeah.
So that really didn't work for me that time.
I would have to say for like body shape, the current one and a couple previous, I'm so picky about body shape. I don't know why, for whatever reason. So there's not much I like. So when people say, well, I want something that's like an Iceman, but also like an Explorer, and I'm like, shoot me in the face. This is going to suck. And I spend a lot of time just, it's amazing with body shape how much just the tiniest little bit of a change will change everything completely. So, but to play with that for some time and finally find something that doesn't make me nauseous is actually pretty fun. And you wind up with some things I've wound up with some things that I never would have imagined. That's just pencil and paper, But it's fun, but I never would have thought of it, and I never would have thought I want to take a whatever and a whatever and mash them together. I some time ago somebody wanted a warlock, and I fucking hate the damn warlock. It's so fugly. So I wound up playing around until I found a variation of it that I didn't hate. It's wildly uncomfortable to try to play, so it's not something I would ever do again. But yeah, playing with shape is fun.
For the last few years, I've been exploring this idea of like Blender, which is a free 3D modeling app, and geometry nodes. And if you ever want to see really cool, interesting designs, just go to YouTube and type in geometry nodes, because what we're talking about here are the ability to create really crazy geometries, right? That usually are used for like VFX artists, right? So we're thinking about like visual, video, movie type things, abstract art, and it doesn't get any more like abstract or surreal than like Blender geometry nodes. And I could just watch that stuff all day, and the ideas are like so new and unique that they are inspiring. But the question is, how practical are they, and can we actually take those and implement them into guitar making? I think that's kind of the journey I've been on for a couple of years, because using geometry nodes in Blender is really kind of a huge learning curve. But I think if you can kind of grasp those concepts, that can push you in directions that guitars have never been into before. And that's kind of my little journey for inspiration, which is just tools, really.
I mean, look, Blender itself is hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
It's, I've tried using it in the past, just sort of because it allows for more organic shapes, I guess you could say.
There you go. Yes.
So, for someone such as myself who is predominantly and heavily CAD based in my designs, where everything is, to the 0.000 millimeter, and then to try and use something like Blender, where it's just like, you're going to grab the pick tool and you're going to just drag a bit over here and see what happens.
And that's a deal. Like, I like the idea of taking just a primitive shape, right? I did this before. I took a guitar body and then just start throwing modifiers on it to see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm not actually doing any modeling. I'm doing all my modeling in CAD. But CAD is so limiting. It's like you're going to build the same stuff all the time. And I like the idea of the organic shapes. Like, how much more organic can we get? How kind of crazy can we get? And I think you can't do that in CAD. Absolutely not. You got to use modifiers in Blender. But I don't actually do any like you said, like modeling in Blender. That's crazy.
I like the idea that we often talk about a bit of material, a bit of wood to inspire us, or enjoying using certain tools. And I like the idea that a tool that we can use is the computer and the software on the computer as a way to inspire.
I like that everybody has these, beautiful stories and my big motivation for creativity is somebody forcing me to do shit I don't want to do.
Are you still thinking about prosthetic breasts?
That went away, but now that you mentioned it, it would be awesome. Not a shape.
My wife often refers to me as a tool.
Well, you're her inspiration then. Hey, I guess when I was thinking about the music inspiring what I was going to play, I often, when I work with clients and I ask them about their design, I ask them in a sort of way of using Pinterest, but I ask them to give me a mood board, and I try that to be as vague as possible. So we might look at images with texture or color in it, or so a lot of the things I end up doing have skulls and things like that on it. So I get them to send me strange images of sometimes album covers. They're quite good, heavy metal album covers, but often it's like examples of weird pagan symbols and drawings and illustrations they've seen anywhere that we can sort of pull together. But I often think about the music they're going to play on it as well, as to how the guitar is going to sort of formed for that. And we had Mark from Hilditch Guitars on ages ago, and he was telling me that most of his guitars he makes now are for people playing heavy metal, and a particular type of heavy metal, I think, because there's obviously a network of guitarists that interact with each other and have seen each other's guitars. So his guitars tend to be quite pointy, and they tend to be sort of almost super Strat-like sometimes. So I just wondered if any of you have an idea of where your guitars should be played or who should play them if you're making them for other people. I know, Brad, when we talked a couple of weeks, or last week, wasn't it? You were talking about the idea of being inspired by. My brain has totally gone today. The guy from Fred Durst's band. I can't remember the name of the band.
Where's Wallen?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's it. Look, he's live with us now. Yeah.
I like to create a mood board as well. Like I go through and I'll just, anything I see on Instagram to do with woodworking, I'll just save a picture of it. If I see a picture wherever, I'll take a screenshot of a video, just little details I'd like to incorporate into a build. I find that's pretty handy to have. They won't all make it to one guitar, but they'll make it onto something eventually.
Mm. I know when I was at university studying art, everyone's encouraged to keep sketchbooks that you collect those sort of things that inspire you. So it might be a tear out from a magazine, or a poster of something, or a bit of wrapping from a bit of food that you think that looks good for some reason, the colors or the font or whatever. And of course that's so like pre 2000s, before we had the internet. And now I've just got bookmark things on Instagram and Facebook, and every now and then I sit back and look through my bookmarks and try to remember why I bookmarked that thing and what it is about it that sort of inspires me.
And why it says 404.
I know for me.
Sorry, Aaron, here you go.
I was just saying, for me, I've sort of found a shape that I'm sort of happy with, and then exploring where that can take me moving forward. If I've had a few commissions for that now, and another one later in the year, so that's sort of something that I'm sort of quite happy with, and just exploring different control configurations and pickups and bridges and hardware and those kind of things. But yeah, for me, since I've made 2 kind of themed guitars, which was my sort of introduction and fun in YouTube, that's what I'd like to get back to at some stage, in the next year or 2. So, and that's where I sort of took inspiration from. That it was like, what elements can I put in a build that are nothing to do with a guitar, that come from a TV show or a book or a movie or a whatever. So there's been a few others like in the back of my mind that I've kind of gone down the track of the brainstorming. So for both the theme guitars that I've done so far, I'm the same with you, Daniel. I've got a sketchbook notebook that has just got all the things that I thought were possible or would want to include. So it's sort of fun going back through those initial sketches and notes to find out what elements did actually make the guitar, or the YouTube videos that I was having fun with, and what things didn't make it. And even then, there's a few little additions that I want to come back to build and have fun with. But yeah, for me, it's kind of that's the creative side to make some more theme guitars down the track. But that's just purely for my own stupid enjoyment, and to make silly videos on YouTube to keep myself occupied.
Trent, do you plan yours out quite in lots of detail? Because there's so many layers sometimes of wood and combined things that it feels like it can't be something you just do as you go along.
Combination of both, really. I mean, I would have an idea, but sometimes I like seeing the way it's going first and then modifying from there, or hiding mistakes from there. So I'm sure we've all done that. But sometimes I don't even like having the final 100% dialed in, where I just get like the first 50% of it, set up, and then to see where it goes is sometimes fun. But it depends upon the percentage of CNC to hand. If you're doing everything by hand, you could leave it a lot more open. Where with the CNC, if you're designing, I mean, you're a little more locked into what your plan was, but it's still always changeable. But I like changing stuff as it goes. That's more fun.
Yeah. I guess is that the same with you, Mark? Because I know you're like for example, the carbon fiber neck you made. That felt like when we were watching the videos you were doing of it, it was a journey where you were experimenting with it all. But did you know what you thought the guitar would look like before you got the neck working?
I knew that I didn't want to use wood. I knew I was looking for an alternative material, and I was looking for alternative processes. That's what I knew.
Right.
And so it did start off with rectangular carbon fiber tubes, and then I moved to, just normal round tubes, and I played around with a lot of combinations. 16 mil tubes, 6 mil tubes, combinations of making profiles of the tubes. I landed on just 3 16 mil tubes, and it made, with the fretboard, a neck that was around 21 millimeters. So it was a really thin neck, and it just worked out. And now I didn't know how to stick the fretboard onto the tubes. I didn't know how to stick the tubes on the body. That was the journey that we all went through, and it just worked. So it's a viable way to build a guitar using carbon fiber tubes. It works, but I had no clue how it was going to look or be. Right. Yeah, although I was designing in CAD, so I had a 3D model of everything, basically.
Oh, so that's interesting. So, Ray, when you design yours, have you already got an idea of how you're going to print them and what colors they're going to be, or is it all just vectors in CAD?
So, this is actually a question I was going to ask everyone. When I sit down to draw a guitar, I actually have absolutely zero idea of what I'm going to do. So, and it's something that we've discussed before with Corey, because he has this as well, a Fantasia. And that's like, you guys, you think you're going to build a guitar, so you start imagining what it's going to look like, and you can picture it in your head of what it should look like and what it should be. But
well, hello people. We've just had our regular thing where for no reason whatsoever everyone drops off the screen, so I've just got to put everyone back on. All I can suggest, Ray, is that the software didn't like what you were saying.
I didn't like what I was saying.
So sorry, what were you just saying?
Well, so basically, like you guys, you can sit down and you can imagine the sort of guitar that you're going to build and how you're going to design it. What do you think it's going to look like? And of course, naturally, as you start, it will all change. That's a given. People like Corey and myself with a Fantasia, we can't imagine something visually. So if you were to tell me, think of a pink guitar with a Hello Kitty in the corner, nah, I got nothing. I cannot imagine it. I cannot see it in my head. So oftentimes I will sit down with CAD, and I'll have a bit of an idea of what might potentially look good. So I'll start to draw it and to see what it looks like. And that's the only way that I can, start on a design is I've got a feeling that something might look good, but I don't know whether it will or not. Yeah. And 90% of the time, what I sit down to trial out is absolutely nothing like what I finish up with. Because as I sort of start to lay down the foundation for like the body shape or something like that, another idea might pop into my head. And again, I've got to see I've got to start to draw it to be able to see it. I can't picture it.
I like the happy accidents, Ray. I don't know if that happens to you, but in CAD, sometimes you get these happy accidents where like 100%. Maybe a spline or something shoots off or something happens and it just makes it look really cool, and so you kind of keep it. Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah. Yep. So, as a lot of you guys know, like some of my guitars will have a veneer over the top of them that has the pattern that uses different colors in it. The vast majority of those, I will sit there on Google and I'll start Googling like geometric designs, patterns, shapes, things like that, trying to look for something. And I'll look at a few different ones and I start to get a bit of an idea. I come back to CAD and I draw something totally different. And then I'll just start, like I might draw 10 circles over the top of each other, or side by side, and then I'll put them overlapping, and then I start to remove sections of them, and that's when you end up with patterns like what's on the Telecaster, where that was purely accident to come up with it. And
that's interesting. I assumed
that is just circles, a bunch of circles in different shapes laid over the top of each other in different spacings.
Have you ever looked at the way a violin was designed initially? So it's just a series of circles in all different sizes, and they overlap in particular ways and stuff. If you look at, just Google the design process of plans for a violin, and you'll see it's much of the same thing. It's a series of circles that overlap in a very particular way, and that's where the shape comes from.
There we go.
Ray, I've got a few questions for you when we're done with the podcast.
Looking at get 3D printing yourself then, Eric?
Well, I've got one. I'm a newbie to this whole thing. So, I mean, I've made a few things that are just stupid little things, but yeah, I mean, I've got some questions about 3D printing that I'd definitely like to run past Ray sometime if he's up for it.
Well, Ray is a wealth of knowledge. 100%. Like I've been hitting up Ray. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely do that, because Ray's been on obviously a number of times before, but we've had a couple of times where he's really got into how 3D printing works. And as Mark just said, he's a wealth of knowledge. And also, if you don't know, we've got the Facebook group. Actually, Eric's on the Facebook group. I've seen you there. But Ray's quite regular on there as well, so that's always a good place to share and talk about. We've just had Quentin join in the live chat, and he was saying what a great community the guitar community is, and definitely the building community has got lots of opportunity to share and support each other, and I find that forum's really good. Hey Eric, back to this idea we were just saying about knowing what your guitar's going to look like in the end. Do you know what you're going to be making, or is it the colours change as you're going along and things?
Majority of the time, I'm just winging it, man. I mean, to be honest with you, it's sometimes 9 times out of 10, I have no idea. It's just what I feel like I'm making. I don't really have an idea. I mean, if you watch Scott's builds, he has the wood selected already, and I think he already has an idea what he's doing. I could make an assumption, but a lot of times I just go with what I'm feeling.
I never really thought about it that much until Great Guitar Build Off, a build off is coming up, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do? I have zero ideas. And the closer it comes to time, the more I'm worried about the fact that I have zero idea. And then all of a sudden something will come to me, and then it becomes more solid pretty quickly. But a lot of times, wood choice colors I kind of have in mind, and sometimes that drives it. But
I know I've been re-spraying some guitars, so I lined up the 5 or 6 guitars that I had ready to respray, and the spray paints I had, and tried to match them up and made little post-it notes on each one saying which colours I was going to put where. And then I started spraying them, and I just muddled up all the paints. Because as I was doing it, I was thinking, actually, this colour goes better with that one now, and I think this one should be this one instead. And then the one of them was just a kit Telecaster that I had that was staining. And as I was staining it, I changed the idea. Instead of it being blue all over, it's black on the back, blue on the front. And then actually it looked better, a bit relict. And then I decided to stain the neck black, which wasn't going to be black originally. And then I knew I wasn't going to put the pick guard on. That was the only thing. So I bought some additional hardware to put on instead. And now I've gone back to the original pick guard. It's like a lot of it, I can't, even though I think I can picture it, it's not until it's physically there and I've got the chance to swap things round and compare that I really know what's right for certain things, I think.
I'm doing the Jergs Cup too, and I didn't know what I wanted to do color wise, and I'm building a telly that's got twin P90s in it, and I actually went ahead and messaged Jerg's wife and said, "Hey, what was Jerg's favorite color?" So me and her talked back and forth for a few minutes, and yeah, I found out what he liked, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a lovely link. I just want to backtrack because Brad just sent me a link to the violin design. I love watching things like this. I always think it's made up. I always think someone's drawn a violin and then put some circles around it to make it fit.
You know, I often think about like the Telecaster, right? The Telecaster body shape. And if you think about like that lower horn was made because that's the exact same size of a spindle sander, right? That's the spindle sander they had, and that's the shape, right? And if you look at all the dimensions of the Telecaster, it has to do with the tooling. The tools they had defined that shape. So when I see something like this, like the violin, I wonder, is it really circles, or was it because their tools basically made those shapes?
I think the violin was more of an aesthetic build with sound with the chamber.
Yeah, I feel that's it as well. But so, like when you see these equations put on, so it looks superimposed on it. It does make it's like when you watch YouTube clips of people that know a lot about music theory analyzing songs and saying this is what's happening here and this is what's happening there, and they often say the person that wrote the song didn't necessarily know all this theory. They didn't know that this is what they're doing, but now we're analyzing it, we can see that. So someone has sat down and sketched this, but I wonder how it fits in, or whether it's just when they're doing it, it's by eye and then it naturally settles and happens to be something that's a perfect fit. Or could you just put these circles
I
in?
love the design that Brad has for that violin shaped guitar.
Yeah. Brad, you've obviously have you read this article? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
I just quickly looked for a picture,
right,
just to demonstrate what I was talking about. But I don't think it's an accident that the circles line up. I think it was probably something that's pretty intentional at the time for the design of it. I haven't read up on it, but like I've seen it a few times pop up, on different different pages or whatever. Yeah.
I had tried to design at one point, and it didn't go very well. I abandoned it pretty quick. But it using it loosely, it's a good way to come up with some nice curves.
I'd love to see that sort of superimposed on other guitar design and think about what was going through their minds when they did it. Like particularly the BC Rich ranges. I feel like that's I feel like a lot of those are someone sat down and just sketched and come up with something and then made it and not really thought about how it all. No, maybe I'm wrong, because there is definitely some ergonomics to a lot of their designs, as in not like
I think Bernie
stock
Rico was
design,
smoking
but
weed.
Well, Daniel, if you're sketching with a particular tool, like let's say you're using a compass, your circles are built in.
yeah,
Like if you have a compass and you're designing, it's built in. So a lot of that design is because of the tools you're using, not necessarily because people are putting circles everywhere.
100%. When I'm designing the layouts for patterns and things on my guitars, or like the space ones I just made, that's often defined by the width of the rulers I've got. I've got 3 rulers next to my desk that are slightly different widths, and I just put them down and draw around them and use those, because there's the set things that are there. So it's not, like you say, it's the tools that are handy that affect it. I love the idea that the Telecaster, the spindle sander connection.
So I was actually saying what I'm about to say. I was saying to Mark earlier today, like we're talking about, designs being made because of what was available at that point in time, what was handy, and like the Telecaster with the spindle sander and different things like that. So just on topic but off topic, we often hear that the best material to build a guitar out of is wood.
And on that
Oh
note,
yeah, so there we go. The software's kicked him out because conclusively, Ray was about to say plastic, but
Foam plastic.
but the internet doesn't like that. So there we go.
yeah,
I
internet.
think Bernie Rico was smoking a lot of weed, is why BC Rich looks like that.
See, I was gonna say I suspect it involved a lot of cocaine, but
Or that.
Have you ever
That would
seen
have been
those?
Junior.
Have you ever seen those videos of spiders spinning webs on different drugs? They're
Yes.
quite mad.
Yes.
It's just interesting to see the different. Obviously, someone's come up with this idea. I know we can test how drugs affect our brains by seeing how a spider's unique, perfectly designed web changes on different substances. Yeah, quite varied. I'll do a Google for
Or
that in a
just
minute.
watch the Woodstock movie.
Corey's in the chat, and he just mentioned the Space Ranger guitars from Music Vox. I did a quick Google for those. I mean, I find these very unappealing.
I just saw a
Yeah,
guitar
I'm not
the
a
other
fan of
day,
those.
Daniel. There's Distortocaster, which was like a melted
Oh
strap.
yes,
Have you seen Distortocaster?
let's see if I can find that as well. I've
Yeah,
definitely seen a
Ryan
melted.
Fluff Bruce,
It is.
Riffs and Beards had that on one of his videos the other day.
Oh really?
how are there
Yeah.
so many of those?
Yeah,
That
it was
looks
that
like
one.
the upper horn's bending forwards as well, slightly.
But even like the fret markers are like
Beauty is the eye of the
melted.
beholder.
But like I say about a lot of the guitars that I make, it's about what it looks like on stage and being a talking point. And like if you're playing a certain type of music, that might fit really well if you're a certain type of thing. Band.
Yeah, like surf punk.
Yeah.
Come
Oh,
from
look,
some
there's
kind
one
of, I can
thing,
see what the guys from Fishbone. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Fishbone. I can definitely see some 60s, 70s acid bands playing these as well. Ray, the
Yeah.
internet decided that you were wrong in trying to suggest that guitars can be made of anything other than wood.
I think the stream just hates me for this one.
So look, it's great to experiment with having so many people on. I think it's a potential that next time if we do it, maybe we'll prepare some topics to help it flow more, because I felt like certain things we've talked about have been an opportunity for us all to join in, but other ones I feel like I'm leaving some people out of the conversation. So I feel bad about that.
Oh, you mean like the first 20 minutes where we just discussed wood options and I'm just sitting there going,
oh, wait, what was that, Ray? Have you been muted? No, I'm joking.
Speaking of
The
material,
plastic, fantastic.
speaking of
that's
material,
right.
Mark, when you said going straight to the plumbing department, my brain went to taking PVC and splitting it down the middle for a neck, which would not look very
That
nice.
was my thought as well. I was wondering how you're going to make it work.
However,
I've already designed my neck. Like I know what it looks like.
now I'm
Thanks.
thinking you could probably mold it somewhat if you put enough heat on it. PVC neck.
Yeah. Well,
I've
if you
been
look at Tim Sway, Tim Sway's made a few guitars out of acrylic, and they look really, really cool, man.
They got to weigh 500 pounds.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I've got acrylic here that I'm going to use on a build. Me and Rich at Custom Charity Guitars are going to go in on building something together, and yeah, I'm quite sure there's going to be some chambering.
Has anybody actually put hands on one of those that was built primarily out of resin? Because I assume those are super heavy, but I really don't know.
Yeah, I've played one, and it's definitely heavier than a heavy Les Paul. It's definitely heavier.
I would think so.
No,
Thank
you.
I've been on a mailing list for a company for a couple of years now, so it's always in my mind, but I haven't had the opportunity to jump in financially. A company that make it looks like wood, but it's made out of recycled plastic, so it's definitely plastic. But they often make things like picnic benches or outdoor chairs and benches out of this plastic, and it comes in different thicknesses and things that emulate wood, so you can get 2x4s and stuff like that out of it. And I've been really keen to try their materials to do something with, so I'm hoping one day that will happen, or someone else will try it and see what it's like. I mentioned it.
I've requested samples from that company, so I have all the little sample blocks.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe you'll do something. My worry with it was I wasn't sure. I mean, there must be a way to just make it adhere to each other. There must be some sort of something that can bond the two plastics together, so you can do a laminate. But
I know Ray would probably know, but I that's the issue I ran into too. I don't know how to adhere two pieces of plastic together.
Yeah. Typically, your best bet is not so much trying to adhere the two together as it is basically using a solvent adhesive that essentially melts the two components together.
Yeah.
And there's a number of glues out there that are very capable of melting two different types of plastic together. And that's one of them is what I use for most of the guitars, because they're often made from two different types of plastic. And like in the past, I've tried using epoxy, like a high strength epoxy, and it works fine, but the cost was I mean, I guess to begin with, I didn't think that the cost was that high because, I was using this particular product and it was working great. So the fact that I was using 2 tubes of a high strength of epoxy for every guitar, I just, kind of assumed that this is the way it is. And here in Australia, 2 tubes of high strength epoxy is about $30. Now I've swapped over to this solvent adhesive, It works quicker, it works stronger, and one tube is $30, and I get probably 8 or 9 guitars out of it. So, yeah, it was just kind of like, I thought that I had it all sorted, but then, yeah, I found this new glue, and it's actually amazing how well it glues things together. You know how like with a lot of wood glue, you know, you sort of say when you glue 2 parts of wood together using like an Adair or similar, it'll never break. It's a stronger bond than the wood has, you know, between the grains. And that's pretty much similar with what I'm finding, is that when I glue these, you know, 2 pieces of plastic together, it will, if I pull them apart, if I actually manage to, then it's just ripping the plastic off of one of the components. So,
how does it smell?
I got a really terrible sense of smell, so it's like, yeah, I'm fine.
I bet it don't smell like
someone mentioned to me. Someone mentioned to me that in the US during like the 70s and the 80s, you had these like balloons that you would blow up through a straw or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, Eric, right. Apparently it smells like those.
I was going to say, because I know Scott used to build models because he's got all these little Lego guys and all this stuff that he does. So he probably gets what I'm saying about the how's the glue smell.
Yeah, it's like with the nitro that I'm spraying all the time. I was quite dizzy yesterday, and I realised I'd probably gone in and out of the spray booth a few times without my mask on, and it just suddenly hits you. Hey, look, slightly backtracking when we were talking about the idea of slight inspiration and guitar shapes and designs. I've been wanting to ask. I've lost it now. Been wanting to ask Trent about the guitar you're working on, the sort of Frankenstrat type of thing out of wood. Let me just share the screen again. This one.
Yeah, so that was like a recreation of what was my favorite guitar.
Right.
That I originally built, 25 plus years ago. So that was the inspiration for the body style. And then I just wanted to do that Van Halen with no paint. And that one turned out really good. That one's done.
That's awesome.
It is very cool.
I love that.
And then I added in something you wouldn't see on
I thought that was a cool build.
I did the neck where instead of putting dots on there, I added stripes in every fret that would have markers on there. So there was a lot of different features to that. Right now I'm putting like a Wenge insert into the body. So around the output jack, it's actually got Wenge around the whole thing instead of just drilling, into and seeing the core of the body. So it's an extra step, but it actually also makes the end of it, when you put that insert in, perpendicular to the jack. Because normally, if you go on an angle, your nut isn't sitting flat on the inside of the guitar, so you got to retighten it all the time. But doing the insert, if you tighten it, it's tight.
I love watching this jig in action.
It's kind of scary when you're using it.
Yeah. It looks so neat, though. Hey, look, I've got a question which maybe is a bit stupid because I've just not done it before, and I'm sure lots of you have. When you've got all those different woods together and you're sanding it back, is it quite hard to get like a smooth surface? Do you find that once the wood settle a bit, you can feel a bit of the texture of where one's grain has maybe expanded a bit more or something?
I find it easier than epoxy because I've done some where I had, epoxy on the top and then the wood was kind of soft and eaten up. And if I'd use a scraper on it, I'd go across the epoxy, and then right when I hit the wood, it would dig in because the wood was softer. But with the different woods, I mean, it's olive, wenge, bubenga, so it's hard, and harder, So
I noticed a long time ago with anything that has real big contrast in the striations, like ash or wenge, even using an orbital, if you put a lot of pressure, it's really going to dig out the soft stuff, and it will leave a lot of texture. Just one wood in that case, you got to be kind of careful to keep it flat and even. So putting different woods together, yeah, you can run into that for sure.
Right, I use Z-epoxy for grain filler on there, so that kind of evens stuff out a little.
Yep, I had mixed results with Z-epoxy. Want to love it. With this one, that's my plan, to try to stabilize that pine a little bit. But Z-epoxy is pretty good shit.
Right, it left certain sections are shinier. If you have the smallest low spot, after you sand it back, unless you sand through, even all those low spots, that you get a little bit of inconsistency in the finish. But it's the first time I used it, so it works all right.
I've got booted twice.
Oh wow, we lost Daniel. Every time there's a lull in the conversation for a second, I'm like, where's Daniel to save us?
He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Well, now we can run amok.
I'm back.
Oh, the teacher's back.
We just came to a grinding halt in your absence, mate.
I'm just going to go back and share what's going on Trent's video. Oh, I just missed it. Where you're doing the record scratch plate.
Right, the Van Halen, the early ones, he used a record for that section of pickguard that he kept on there. So I actually bought that record is Van Halen 1. So it's like a cheap one on eBay that's scratched up. Yeah. Cost probably the same amount as pickguard material. So
Oh, fair enough. I'm
That's fitting.
I'm all for using the wrong materials or different materials for things all the time, but I appreciate there's a place for tradition. I think I mentioned earlier that there's a guitar show coming up soon that I'm going to. I'm really intrigued when I go there to have another look around at what's most popular at the moment from builders building and see if I can work out what's most popular with people buying at the moment, because I went into some guitar shops recently and everything just looked quite stale and boring to me. Everything looked quite similar. There are a few guitars that stood out because they had slightly different paint jobs on, but nothing looked that exciting. But I'm intrigued as to what the market is out there. Do people just like the tradition still, or are people after new things? Now there's more available. So I'm going to have a good chat to some of the builders there to see if they've got certain things that maybe sell more. I know that someone I see at the shows a lot tends to build maybe Telecasters a bit more, or things that look a bit like Telecasters. I think that might be because they sell well. We always say Telecasters are popular.
I think a lot of people buy safe.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
If they're a beginning guitarist, then your Les Paul, Strat, Telly, they're all safe guitars, so to speak. Regardless of the name on their headstock, it's that shape. It's going to be a good guitar because the internet told you.
Yeah.
And then sort of as people progress and advance, and they're starting to look at buying a premium guitar, well, that's at that point you're spending a lot of money. You're spending a lot of money on a purchase, and you need to make sure that you're buying a solid investment, or you're buying a decent guitar. So again, you buy safe. they're buying something with a crazy, outlandish design. You know, we all want it. We all want it sitting in the corner. And I honestly think that, you know, half the reason that the majority of us are on this, you know, on this stream or watching this stream is because we wanted that weird, crazy, cool or classic looking guitar. But couldn't really justify it, you know, paying for it. But we got a woodshed full of tools.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people said, you know, I built this guitar because it's the one I wanted, or I wanted something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the thread
I'm
in
gonna,
the.
I'm going to show.
I'm just dropping in this NASA experiment I mentioned earlier of the spider webs on the different things. Caffeine, look at caffeine. It loses it. But there's definitely videos of them doing it as well.
I'm going to show my age here and say that a lot of times when I was younger, I'd be reading a Hit Parader or a Circus magazine, and they used to run these crazy ads for guitars. And the first guitar that I saw in those magazines that I absolutely loved, always wanted one but never got one, was the Carvin guitar that the guy from Jefferson Starship played. I forget his name, Craig Chiquia or something. I always thought it was a phenomenal looking guitar.
I'm gonna Jefferson Airplane guitar. Again, great podcasting.
What was the body shape, Eric? Like, what did it look like?
It kind of looked like an ML mixed up with an Explorer, and it was just. It looked like it was upside down for some reason.
Oh, I'm not going back to what. So, what was the guitarist's name?
Craig Chiquia, I think.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find it
Just
now.
put in Carvin. Just put in Carvin Jefferson Starship plate.
Oh wait, here it
guitar.
is. I've got
Or
one
Jefferson
image of it.
Airplane.
Here we go. Do you remember what the paint job was on it?
There was a white one, then there was a natural quilted finish one.
Not this, then.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
It's like an ML got flipped upside down.
I definitely remember seeing guitars on MTV when I was younger and wanting them. There was first time I saw a Warlock was being played by Max Cavalera and Sepultura, and then there were the Jackson Flying V's that Megadeth were playing. All of those appealed to me. Oh look,
We'd afford.
I can see what you mean. I can see where the ML comes in and the Explorer comes in as well. So.
And then also Wasp had some crazy guitars too.
Ray, what's that shape called? Because it looks like
That's the ML.
That is the ML.
Yeah. And that one that we just looked at was kind of like that.
I always love it when we're talking to Ray and you just pull up what we're talking about physically.
I think he just printed it on the spot, does he? Isn't that what he does?
Yeah, just I'm just sitting here drawing and then it's just spitting out behind me.
I think the first time I became aware of the fact that you have different shapes was Eddie's Steinberger. And, that was the first time I saw a headless, too. I was like, holy crap, there's other stuff out there?
Yeah.
So I was always interested in different, not the same old, but long before I built.
So, just so people know, we're doing next week at the normal time, but I'm going to be trying next week also doing it as an audio podcast. So I think what we're going to do, and it's going to be like a trial and error, I think, over a few weeks, is ripping the audio from the visual and putting that up, maybe with a little change to it, maybe an edit somehow, and putting that on different streaming platforms. But I'm not sure when that will be. I want my very best to try and do it all in the same sitting. So once we finish this, downloading the audio, putting it up, just so for me it keeps it all contained, so I'm not doing too much work over many days. But we'll see what happens. So I'd be intrigued to find out if anyone will listen to that or how it will be discovered. But if anyone's got any suggestions of how to spread the word, because this is like our 50th show, looking at the statistics on YouTube, it seems like the shows do only very slightly, because we don't get that many views. It's like 150 to 300 at the most views for these. But it seems like most people, or a large percentage of viewers, come back each time. So it looks like there's a good 80% of people that watch more than one, which is pretty good. And that's the aim of it, I think. Yeah. So, as I always say, a bit of support of sharing and spreading the word is really helpful if you know how to, or have anyone that you think might be interested. It was interesting that earlier on we had Quentin and someone else, I think, that had maybe joined the stream for the first time. It just come across the channel. So it's always good to hear. Maybe in the comments, let me know how you found out about it all. Great. And yeah, thank you to Arran and Scott for being here when I first wanted to try this out. I remember talking on the Guitar Builders Collective chat, little Instagram. Did anyone want to do it? And you were the only two that seemed interested, even not interesting.
I kind of talked about that idea before. I thought it'd be fun, but I didn't know how to pull it off. So when you brought it up, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea had been floated for a little while, but yeah, Daniel, you were the one that actually started looking into the practicalities of it and making it work. So to do 50 now, or nearly 50, and a year later, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's for me, it's the thing I like the most about it is actually talking to people about guitars and having a moment away from my workshop, because most of the time I'm just on my own in the workshop. It's nice to have other people with similar interests that we can talk to.
There's only so much you can get from each other by sending texts or messages or typing on a video or a comment. So to talk like this is really cool, and for other people to watch and listen as well.
And as we say, we can get more people in if we need to. So if anyone is up for who's watching this that wants to join in at any point, please let me know. And we'll definitely get Trent and Eric back to have a more focused discussion about what you do at some point. I've also got a list of guests to invite that people have suggested. So that will all be slowly happening. I can only set up the streams 6 weeks in advance, and I find that it's a bit awkward to invite someone to say, would you like to come on in 3 months' time? That seems a bit weird. So I'm slowly contacting people.
I just feel that right at this point in time, we have something missing, and I think we need to address it. Scott, where's the plastic bag?
Where's the what? The plastic bag. For those of you that don't know, Scott Austin has a plastic bag hanging behind him.
I don't know that needs to be discussed.
No.
For sure, you can
happy tissue bag.
Rest, but I guess they're both kind of plastic bags.
I don't even know what's going on right now.
It's a bag that sits behind Scott. It's usually full of tissues and various paraphernalia.
Oh,
actually, it's full of plastic bags.
He's got a plastic bag full of plastic bags.
Yes.
Where do you
Okay,
put your plastic
well,
bags, then, Eric?
Right?
What's that?
Where do you put your plastic bags? Plastic bags go into other plastic bags, surely.
I was just getting ready to say, right next to our refrigerator, we have a huge plastic bag full of plastic bags.
Yeah.
Not here anymore. Our plastic bags have turned back into paper bags.
Ah.
Really?
Mm.
That's one thing I never understood
plastic
about.
bags have been out.
One thing I never understood about American shopping is carrying it around in those paper bags that don't have handles. What's that about? You shouldn't have left us. You shouldn't have gone away and become independent. You would have had handles on your bag. Crazy.
The 70s was a long time ago.
So look, next week's
Hey, at least they gave us covers for our books.
Next week's the 50th episode. I'm not sure exactly what's happening yet. I'll chat to the others off air about that. But then the week after, we've got Dan or Daniel from Guns and Guitars on, which should be good fun. Then we've got Daniel from Unquenda Guitars, who if you follow him on YouTube, he's recently come back with loads of stuff with a new workshop as well. And I find his videos have been particularly useful for me because sometimes they're very instructional videos on how to use tools and things. I love it. Then we've got Gabriella Retti, who we know from the Great Guitar Build Off, who makes those incredible guitars with inlays and laminates and things. So that's the next one's lined up.
And she's a nice lady.
Yeah, she does seem very, very funny and very friendly. And then also, not quite scheduled yet because I can't schedule that far in advance, Simon, who's in the chat here, is going to come on. Simon makes guitars, and he also does it through a charity that works with people to make guitars. And I find that concept really interesting. So I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about the charity. If any of you know, I don't know how popular it is outside the UK, but they recently made a guitar for Billy Bragg in one day for him to play at a gig that evening, which I thought was a very cool idea.
Cool.
Out of interest,
Yeah,
any of
when
you know
you say
Billy
the
Bragg?
name Simon,
Simon, yeah?
I just want to break into that song. Well, you know my name is Simon, and I'll draw a thing for you.
I don't know that song.
I just want to know what he says. Simon says.
I'm going to definitely have to look up that song now. Cool. Right. Yeah, so it'd be great if we see some of you in the chat again in the future. I wish everyone in America a happy 4th of July. Everyone in the UK, enjoy your voting day. If anyone is around later today or this evening, I'm going to be staying up late, partly to hear what's happening with the... I've just seen Saul's comment, Corey's comment. Partly to see what's happening with the election, but partly so I can build my new pedal board. So I think when I'm doing that, I might try going live on Instagram, getting some feedback about some sounds and some noise. So might have that. But as Corey's just said, we've got a new outro just for today. Oh, sorry, Eric.
We can all come over to your place now tonight.
Oh yeah, you're welcome if you can get here.
Was that an
But otherwise, it might be on Instagram Live. So thank you again to everyone that's in the chat. Thanks to everyone that's here. Thank you, Trent and Eric, for being here for the first time. Brad, after last week, hopefully, is going to be a regular when we do those sort of scheduled ones that are a bit better for your timing in the evening in Australia, a bit earlier. But we've got this new outro.
Ginger Lives Matter.
They do.
Here we go.
Nice.
The Brady Bunch is something that I'm aware of, but I don't know if it was ever a thing here, really.
Oh my
Can someone
God.
hum the tune while I hit Can someone
Eric will
hum the
sing it for
tune
us.
when Yeah,
That's hilarious.
I like you've caught us all. I'd like to hope that these were photos taken at separate times and then collaged together, as opposed to there was one moment when we were all kind of a little bit fake looking.
Corey did that.
Yeah. Oh no, it was Owen. Owen did that.
Oh,
Thanks,
Owen.
Owen.
Okay. Very cool.
Seems like Brady should have put something, but I can't picture what at the moment.
I'm sure that'll be. Right, I am going to go. Right, thanks everyone. See you around next time.
See you guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks Eric. Thanks Trent. The Guitar Builders Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of guitar building chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi.